Hey there, in this video, I want to share some music production tips and techniques as I recreate Justin Bieber's Daisies from his newly released album. Now, spoiler alert, this probably is going to be the quickest breakdown because there's just 3 elements in this breakdown, minus Justin Bieber's vocals. That would be element number 4. But there's a lot of nuances that go into the production decisions that help elevate just decent, okay loops or vibes and ideas into chart-topping songs. So I want to get into that in this video, so let's dive right in. So here's my recreated version. Now that's pretty straightforward. It's the meat and potatoes of the record, the amazing guitar riff that we hear, and the transitions of the riff itself throughout the song arrangement, the dry and vintage dead drums, and a little bit of bass. So what's there to break down? Well, a couple things I want to walk you through. So let's start with the drums. All right, so the drums have this really dry, there's some room in there, but this dead, dry, vintage type of sound to it. So immediately, just going to go straight to the right ingredients, right? So I'm going to start with Excellent Audio's Addictive Drums 2. It's my go-to, but especially love this vintage dead kit that is featured in this plugin. And I'm going with the Beautiful Trash preset. Now, just fumbling through, rather than spending minutes, hours, days, years tweaking snare drums and finding the, manipulating knobs, I'm just what gets me to the nearest result possible. So I'll play the reference track a couple of times as I'm playing it. Sometimes I'll import it into my session, play the reference, listen to that, play the reference, go to the patch. It's like, okay, this preset is a great starting place. And so one major key advice here in producing your own music is if you start with the right ingredients, every aspect of producing your song and getting it to the finish line that you desire is going to be so much easier. Start with the right ingredients, you'll get the right results at the end, okay? Or it makes it easier to get the results you're looking for. So vintage dead drums, Beautiful Trash. Let's just check out what's going on. Now, I'm going to go over here to the kit itself, and I'm routing the kick drum and the snare drum through separate routing. So I'm going to go in here, and I'm routing separate output post fader, which means that all the processing, everything that the preset is doing, I don't want to change that. I don't want to, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I want that to stay in place, and then post all these changes, all the tweaks, send that affected sound out to a separate output. And for the input, I've chosen the actual VST plugin, Addictive Drums 2. And then underneath that, I'm choosing the actual kick output. And then set the monitoring from off or auto to input so that you can monitor the kick drum in real time. Now I'm doing this so I have a bit more control, and it's just visually easier to blend and balance. And if I wanted to put any third-party plugins or Ableton Live native plugins, I can do that by routing that kick drum out of Excellent Audio. So really powerful technique here. I'm doing the same thing for the snare drum. So this is the direct signal that's being routed, and then we have the room and the overhead and everything else through here. So let's just blend the drums. And so yeah, real laid back. And so if we go to the pattern, I want to make sure that the pattern itself is pretty loose as well. So you'll see some of the notes here are loose, laid back. They're not really stiff or timed or quantized, snapping to the grid. And that's what we're going for. We're going for that humanistic feel, and approaching it this way is going to be very, very useful to getting that effect. Now, I've grouped the snare, kick, and the overhead in the room together to form our drum bus or drum group, as if you're using Ableton Live. And I'm using the LA2A as the compressor on here. Now, when do you start to know what compressor to choose for what, group or purpose? Well, when you become familiar with individual compressors, they function the same. Their function is, control the dynamics, but their approach can be different. And the tone that each compressor has can be different. What do I mean by that? Well, this LA2A is not a very fast or reactive compressor. So it's not going to be very, let's say, dramatic. And that's what I'm going for. I need something smooth, something that's just going to kind of help overall bring the low. Don't think of compressors as turning the high things down. Think of them as bringing the nuanced subtleties of the drum, maybe the ambience, the room, bringing that up so that everything's a little bit more even and balanced. So let's take a listen to that. You can hear a little bit more of the room presence come up in volume. Not necessarily the snare coming down, but the room coming up. That's what I'm going for. And so with that, the LA, I'm going to do some tape saturation, warm this up, vintage, want to get a little bit more grit to that. And then we're using a Pultec EQ to give a little bit of some low end bump here and some top end boost. That's going to help the snares, that snare drum, feel a little bit open. Now, after that, more saturation. I love saturation. It's one of the easiest ways of getting those drums to fit right in your projects. And so I'm using Ableton Live's Roar, but I'm choosing the multi-band mode, which is super cool because I can then just apply the distortion a little bit heavier to the higher end frequency here and kind of deal with the mid and lows separately. So I didn't want to add more crunch and warmth to the bottom, just crisp a little bit more of that high end. And then I'm sending a little bit of these drums over to a reverb that I have on return track B, right? Sending, and it's going to return from track B. So I'm using the Sunset Sound from T-Rax, the IK Multimedia Studio Reverb, and I'm making a live room. I'm going to the live room here because as I'm listening to the reference, it has that roomy type of feel. And although there is already room here, we've got the room track, I'm sending just a little bit more because I want this to be unified with the other instruments that are in this track, such as the guitar. And there you go with the drums. Okay, so confession time. I'm not a good guitar player, probably not even a decent one. I can grab guitar, play some power chords, track that in. And obviously the heart and the core of this record is just the vibe and just the overall tone of the guitar here. Obviously a good studio musician or a great guitar player, I would always just lean on that. But I challenged myself to do this virtually. One, I wanted to see if I can do it. And I knew I could, but I wanted to see, okay, if I had no guitar player to come into the session, how would I be able to manipulate a virtual guitar to get somewhat close to that? And that's what I'm going to walk you through here in this video. So let's take a listen to the guitar with the drums. So let's walk you through. So I'm going to start with the core ingredient, which is the Native Instruments Electric Vintage. So I have a feeling this is the type of guitar, but instead of the strumming mode, I'm going to choose the melody mode. And that gives you the ability to actually play your riffs or play the melody that you want on the guitar. And so we're going to go with just Road Trip, the first preset here, the pick mode, poly, and then the guitar settings. I've got the doubling off. The pickup selection is going to be the neck. Doing a little bit of tweaking here with the muted notes, the velocity. These are all just things, but I'm not using the amp setting here built into the plugin. We're going to use a different amp. Now, before I even get into the processing, what amps, what plugins, the most important aspect of this, to get guitars to feel human or a little bit less, amateurish or less, robotic, is going to be in the MIDI performance. So this is what probably took the most time, is the actual riff itself. So let me hit fold here so we can see just the notes that I'm playing. Key element number one, the quantizing, the rhythm, the pocket. Everything here is purposely, things are nudged, moved around. So let's just solo this guitar. Okay, so what you'll notice is that, you know, I did my best to hear the riff, play it as close as possible, but it's these notes here that are really the crucial parts of making this feel legit. Now, what I'm doing here is, if you notice on the plugin itself, this plugin has what we call triggers. So C1, C sharp 1, you can switch back and forth between a muted performance or an open string performance, or tremolo. And so these notes correspond to that, okay? So then in my MIDI, as I'm playing the part, I'm going back and forth because I want some of the notes, boom, 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 ding, right? I don't want to have everything muted and I don't want everything open. So I'm muting the initial attack of the note and then using C1 to open it up again. So look what happens if we just eliminated all of these notes here. And that's where it's a dead giveaway that this is a fake guitar, right? So you really want to study and just get in the habit of creating these awesome little switches that will switch from the muted and the open. And so that's what we have there, and that's what's giving the ultimate vibe. So that is, I would say, the most important aspect of using virtual guitars, is focusing on capturing the MIDI. I would spend the majority of the time there and less time on the right pedal, amp simulator, and things like that, because that's where the heart and meat and potatoes is of everything. So for the amp, I went with the Neural DSP. I think I'm using the, which one is this? The Architect Corey Wong. There you go. I'm trying to figure out what this is. And just experimenting with different amp settings, you know. So I stayed with this one here. The pedal, we're using a little bit of the compression pedal, the tube distortion. Just dialing in the sound that I'm looking for. Speaker. Now, what's cool about this guitar part does have some roominess to it. So I was messing around with the room send. So I'll put that in a little bit, moving around the dynamic microphone and doing a little bit EQing here. And then adding some more. There's some chorus effect here. So each of these Neural DSP plugins, they're amazing. They're fantastic amp modeling plugins. So if you're looking for some really good, but they're catered, right? So there's a signature series. So Corey Wong has his signature series, you know, pedals, and so it doesn't come with a huge vast array of different pedals you can choose from. You're kind of set with a signature series here. So this is good. I thought this was a great place to start. After that, I'm going to use the RC20 by Excellent Audio to give a little bit more distortion, some wobble, some hiss and noise, but really using this EQ to cut. And then we have the Kickstart by Nicky Romero. This is giving a little bit of pulse here. But I don't want too much because I don't want to eliminate the initial mutes and the plucks that we hear. And then we have our FabFilter Pro EQ. This is shaping the overall tone as I go back and forth with the reference and I listen to that with the other elements. And I'm using IK Multimedia's Moto Bass, setting it over to the 70s J bass here, muting it very much, like 80% muted, and the Pultec EQ for some low end. And this is just to correspond with the guitar. So it's giving a little bit of that low end back in. And as you can see, I'm also sending some of that guitar to the reverb that we have with the Sunset Sound. So yeah, I haven't done a breakdown where I'm really just, you know, using just 3 tracks. But what does that say? What does that mean, right? Drums, great guitar riff, but what carries the weight here? The melody. The melody and Justin's performance is just really captivating and allowing the listener to go on a journey. The way the melody's delivered, the way it's structured out. so that it actually takes the listener on a journey. We have peaks, we have valleys. And so if you're trying to figure out, how do I take songs that I've written and how do I take these songs that I think are good, but elevate them to the level where they can actually be on playlistings, opportunities, or get on film, sync, TV, even video games. How do I get my decent, okay songs and have them become breakthrough songs so that they actually open up opportunities for me? Well, I actually want to walk you through. I have a 3-day live online event in which I'm going to walk you through the method and the formula that I have been using over the past 24 years, taking my songs that I've been producing in the bedroom and then hearing those songs in stadiums with artists that I've, chart-topping artists that I've worked with, and having thousands of people sing those songs back. It is an amazing feeling. And so I want to walk you throughout the 24 years of me producing music, help you take your songs from good to great in this breakthrough song challenge. Now, spots are limited. It's a limited seated event, and so tickets are going fast. So I would encourage you, this is August 6th through the 8th. So if you want more information, just click the link below in the description box, and I'd love to see you. This is going to be live. It's going to be jam-packed with value. We're going to talk about, breaking down not just sound selection, but how do you take your ideas, flesh them out to fully finished songs, and then how do you elevate the song that you have and identify, how do I transition this to a good song into a breakthrough song? Like, what's the hit song formula that I can and framework that I could use? I want to cover that in this 3-day challenge. So if you're interested, click the link below and go ahead and save your seat, because they're going fast. And once it's filled, I don't know if I'm going to do another one. All right. So thanks for watching. I hope this video was helpful and encouraging and inspiring in any way. Be sure to subscribe so you can stay up to date with more videos I'll have dropping soon. Thanks, and I'll see you soon.